It's day 3 of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. The theme tonight is a fight for our freedoms.
And we can expect to hear from Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as he is accepting the Democratic vice presidential nomination officially tonight. John Hook is live with more from Chicago. John.
Well, good evening, Brian and Ellen. And right now, Cory Booker, U.S. Senator, is on stage, and there will be a lot of featured speakers tonight as they try to roll out the heavy hardware. Pete Buttigieg, Transportation Secretary, he will speak tonight. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, who, of course, was in the Veep stakes, he will appear tonight. Nancy Pelosi, the former House Speaker, she will speak. And former President Bill Clinton, who will be making his 12th speech to a Democratic convention. He first did it in 1988 at Michael Dukakis's event, and he was almost shunned off the stage because he went too long. I think he learned his lesson, and 4 years later became the nominee for the Democratic Party. In terms of musical acts tonight, and the Democrats always roll it out, John Legend will do a tribute to Prince in honor of Tim Walz from Minnesota, Prince's hometown, home state. Stevie Wonder will perform. We're also hearing Oprah may speak tonight. Chicago's her hometown. That would be a logical choice. So that's the lineup for tonight. The big question hovering over the hall and really larger America for Tim Walz, it's the biggest stage he's ever been on tonight as he really introduces himself to the country. His biography he will roll out, and then we might get some policy as well where he wants to take the country as the second in line. But when we spoke to people outside of Wrigley Field today, there were a lot of blank faces when asked, who is Tim Walz? For baseball fans, it's hallowed ground. Wrigley Field, the second oldest park in Major League Baseball and home to the Cubs since 1914. Aside from a baseball game, the big question is, who is Tim Walz? What name Tim Walz mean to you?
Not a damn thing.
Do you know the name Tim Walz?
Nope.
Do you know who Tim Walz is?
No.
Do you know who Tim Walz is?
Yeah, he's the governor of Minnesota.
Tonight, Tim Walz will take the biggest political stage of his life, bringing his Midwest sensibilities and avuncular persona to a national audience. He has little time to define himself, with only 76 days left before the election.
Well, he's got an incredible biography, frankly, as a coach, as a military veteran, as a teacher, and obviously as a congressman and governor of the great state of Minnesota. Want to hear talk about the economy, obviously what we're going to do when it comes to national defense, immigration. He's going to cover a whole host of subjects, but I think what makes Tim Walz so incredible is he has an ability to reach people that historically Democrats have had a really hard time connecting with.
And I'm really excited to hear from Tim because his experience that he can bring to this job. As a member of the House, a two-term governor, a veteran, he served 24 years in the Army National Guard. He's a teacher and a coach. He brings a lifetime of experience to this.
Did it break your heart that you didn't get selected?
I am focused on making sure Kamala Harris is the next president of the United States. So no, I was honored to be considered.
So there you have it. Senator Mark Kelly, who, cut his teeth in the U.S. Navy as a fighter pilot and then as an astronaut. He's got the political thing down. That was a very political answer, but he really does like Tim Walz a lot. He enjoyed him. I guess Tim Walz was in the freshman class with his wife, Gabby Giffords, when she first got to Congress. She really liked him, and they have a nice, warm friendship. Tim Walz still has to answer some questions hanging out there about whether he embellished his military record. He's made some statements that he and his wife used IVF to conceive their 2 children. That isn't exactly the case. So he's got a little cleaning up to do, but if you look at the polling right now, Tim Walz's rollout is polling better than J.D. Vance's rollout on the Republican side. 76 days to go, guys. Can you believe it?
Yeah, it is wild, John. It's going to be here very quickly. As we know, early voting starts, early October here in Arizona. I think those sound bites, though, were so fascinating because I think for so many of us who are, in the news or covering politics, doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, you forget that many Americans are not that plugged in.
That's exactly right, Ellen. That's the biggest challenge for the Harris-Walz ticket, because the polling shows that between 60 to 70% of Americans do not know where she stands on positions and issues. They know her kind of as a figure, as a number two, but they don't know really what she's about. And that will be very important down the stretch, particularly after Labor Day, when people start really focusing in on who are these people? We know Trump. Who are these folks? That's a challenge.
John, what about the protesters that I know Chicago was preparing for? How did that end up playing out?
Brian, I'll tell you, that 100,000 number of protesters, we have not seen it. People said that there were 100,000 protesters who descended on Chicago to create chaos. We have not seen it. There was a fracas last night outside of the Israeli embassy. There were 72 arrests. They burned an American flag. But Chicago police have really done a nice job. They learned some hard lessons in '68 when that convention got completely out of control and there was violence in the streets. They have contained this thing, and with these barriers, they're keeping these folks 1 to 2 miles away from the United Center. So far, so good.
All right, John, we are going to talk to you, of course, tonight at 9 and 10 o'clock. Thanks so much. And you can also watch Governor Tim Walz accept the nomination right here on Fox 10. Our live coverage will begin at 7 p.m. from Chicago.